Hi everybody, and in this video I'm going to show you how you can make your own Amazon Black Friday deal scraper, where you can give a search term and it will scrape through all the pages and then give you the best deal based on what is the most discounted. This you can see running in the background. I've got it working. Now I've done a version which utilizes argparse, and I'll show you that at the end, and that means we can call it in the command line like this. So I'm going to run through full code with you guys now, so follow along, and hopefully you guys enjoy this and you find it useful. Okay, so let's get started. So the first thing we need to do is have a look at the web page. So I've come over here to Amazon, and under this Black Friday sale tab here, I've just done a quick search for something. We'll try something else. We'll do a different one so you can see the space. But if you take a look at the URL, we can actually remove the stuff at the end. We get up our information here, and inside it we have the search term. So we can actually just take this URL and we can query it. So I'm going to copy this and I'm going to put it into our code. I'm just going to quickly just put this down here so it's nice and safe. But I'm going to get rid of the search term for the moment, and I'm going to quickly just turn this into a F string so I can work with it as we go forward. So I'm going to say search term there. If I just add in our variable here, and let's just say we need a plus sign in between those two, just like we saw in the URL. So now I've got those in, we just need to import the packages we're going to use. Now I'm going to use request HTML again for this one. If you saw my last video on Amazon pagination, we're going to be using that pagination to work with this as well. So I'm going to go ahead and import those. So we know from requests underscore HTML, and we're going to import HTML session. And we're also going to use Beautiful Soup 4. So I'm going to do from BS4 import Beautiful Soup. Now, if you don't have either of these installed, you can pip install them, and that will get that done so you can follow along. So the next thing we want to do is we need to start thinking about actually getting the data. So I'm going to start by creating some functions right away so we can build our scraper up nice and easily with that. So the first one we're going to do is we're going to define our function of get data. Now this is the one where we're going to give it the URL, and we're going to say that we're going to, out of this function, we're going to return the soup variable, the soup, which is all the HTML ready for parsing. So I'm going to say r is equal to s.get, and then we're going to give it our URL. S being our, sorry, I've missed that. S is equal to HTML session. There we go. So we can set our S variable. There we are. So now we're going to say r is equal to s get the URL. And then we want to do r.html.render. Now this is just going to render all the JavaScript on the page so we don't get blocked by Amazon. If you don't do this step, you will probably get back something like Amazon saying you're a bot. So we want to do r.html.render, and we're going to give it sleep is equal to 1 just to give it a second to do its thing. So now we want to do our soup, which is equal to beautiful soup, and we're going to give it r.html.html. That's a bit confusing because what we're doing is we're taking the HTML and we're rendering it, but then we need to actually give it the HTML in text as opposed to the bytes value. So we're going to put that there, and we're going to be using the HTML parser. You can use the other ones if you want to. I just tend to like this one. And then out of this function, we're going to return soup. So what we've done so far is we're basically saying if we give this function our URL, it's going to return all of the HTML for us that we can then pass through, get the information we want out. I've made a mistake there. We just need to remove that from there. That should be there. Okay, so the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm just going to test that this function works, and I'm going to run my code. But what I'm going to do is let me just bring up the terminal, and I'm going to do Python 3 in my case, it might just be Python in yours, -i for interactive, and then this Python file. So what this is going to do is just going to let us run our function in here, and we can see how it works without having to change our code every time. So let's just say get data, and we're going to give it this URL here because we've defined that already. So if we run that, we should basically get a printout of all of the HTML that comes back from that page, which looks good to me. I've done Amazon quite a few times. I know that this is good. It will, if you do this and you get something, it'll come up quite quickly around here and it'll say, are you a bot, etc., etc. If you've done that, your render hasn't worked, so go back and have a look at that. So now I know that this function works. We can now move on to parsing the HTML and making sure we get the right information out, and then we can think about saving it. So I'm going to write another function that's going to pass through the HTML and get the information that we're after. Now this isn't too difficult, we just have to keep checking back and forth with the actual inspect element tool on the web page, which I'll show you in just a second. But I'm just going to say get deals, we're going to call this function. Now we need to give it our soup, and this is what's going to come out of this function here. So what we want to do is now we need to go to the web page, and we're going to use this as an example. I'm going to go to inspect element, and I'll just make this big so we can all see. Bring it over here. So what we're looking for is sort of like the main products div or something like that. So the one that has them all in. So the easiest way to do this is to sort of highlight over one and then try and move out a little bit. If you can't quite find it, you see these ones are sponsored, they might be in a different place. We're just going to go straight to this one then, and we'll click over around here. Now if we keep moving back up the tree, you can see it's highlighting different things. So you can see the difference between, so you can see as I move back up the tree, it highlights more and more things, and somewhere around here we get the whole lot. Now if I go one more up, we should find the whole thing somewhere around about here. Nope, bit further up. There we go, we saw it there. Okay, so what we've got here is if I just close these ones down, we can see that we have a div that highlights everything. Now this is basically where all the products are. So we can go ahead and find this div to get the products out. So let's have a look at this a bit further, see what's under here. Okay, so there's that one. And if we scroll back up to the top, we can get the first result here. So we can see that this first thing actually isn't a product. So maybe we want to go a bit further down. So I'm going to go into this one. I'm going to see what comes up next. Okay, so they all appear to have this data-component-type is equal to s search result. So what we can do is we can use Beautiful Soup to find all elements that match this data-component.type, and that will give us each and every one of these products, and it will skip over this one which isn't. So I'm going to go ahead and copy that, and I'm going to come back to our code, and I'm going to copy the whole thing just so I can remember it. I'd have to come back to it all. So this is what we're going to be doing. So let's just give ourselves a bit of room. So what we're going to say is products is equal to soup.find all, and it was a div. Now this was our data-component-type, and the value was this s-search-result. So that is going to go ahead and find all of the products on that page. Now remember, when we run this function, we're going to be giving it the soup that comes out of this function. So we're going to run them in order. So the next thing that we want to do is we want to loop through all the items that are within these products. So the products was each and every single one, but now we want to loop through each one within it. So let's show you back on the tree. So as we hit this one, we then want to loop through all of the parts within it to get the information. Let's make that, there we go. So we're going to do for item in products. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to have a quick look and see what information we might want to get out. So I'm going to say we definitely want the product name here. So that's under this span tag. But what we might find actually is it's probably better to get it from, oh no, we go, it's under an A tag. So the span, okay, so we can get this link, because we're going to want the link as well, because when we get the results at the end, if there's one that we're interested in, we want the link so we can just click on and go to it. So I'm going to get this link here. So I'm going to say it's an A tag with class that. Okay, so we're going to say link is equal to item.find, and it's an A tag, and it was class, and it was this. And to get the actual attribute for the href, we just do square brackets and href at the end like that, and that will get us that attribute from that element. So I think as well what we've got here is we can actually just ask for the text in this element, because you can see although it has the text is in this span, there's no other text within this under this A tag, so we can just ask for it here. So if we can copy this again, actually I'll just put this above it and we'll just say title here instead. And we're going to use the same element, but instead of the href we're going to do dot text like that. And I'm actually going to do dot strip after this one as well, strips away any of the white space. Now a little trick that I find quite useful, because as you can see Amazon product names are super long, is I like to chop them up just so we can get them into a bit more of a readable form. So I'm going to come underneath here, I'm going to add this in again, and I'm going to say short title, let's put an underscore under there. And I'm just going to put in, I think this will work. We can say we want everything up to the 25 characters. We'll try that and see what that looks like. So I'm just going to print those out for the moment. So we're going to say, I'm going to print out the short title for reasons I just discussed, and then the link. So I'm going to save that. And now if I come back to my Python interactive terminal, like we just did a minute ago with Python 3 in my case, or could just be Python in yours, I'm going to run, we need to run our first function, which is our get data on our URL. But we need to save that into a variable so then we can give it to our get deal. So I'm just going to say soup is equal to get data, and we'll give it the URL, the same one that we've defined up here. We'll let that run. And now we're going to do get deals, and we're going to say put the soup in there. So now when we run that, it's interrogated all that HTML, and we can see that we have the names of the products. So you have chopped the product name up. Maybe 25 is a bit too aggressive, but you get the idea. There should be enough information in the first 25 characters. So that works good. So we want to go press on and get more information. So what else did we want out of here? Well, we definitely want the price, but we want the old price and the new price. So I'm going to use this one as an example again and hover over the price. We can see it's split up here, but what we can do, what we can actually see is if you look on this side of the screen, try and make that a bit bigger. It doesn't disappear off. I'll just move this over. I wonder why that isn't being so responsive. That's interesting. We can see that although it's split out here, there's a bit above that says this span class off screen with $13.99. So we could just go ahead and get that. And if I show you under here, if you come to the one that's crossed out, we can see there's another one here, span class A off screen. So what we can do is we can actually just try and find both of these with a find all and just index them. So the first one is the new price and the second one is the old price. So let's give that a go. So I'm going to say, the first one was a new price. So let's say new price. Actually, I'll call it sale price. And we're going to do item.find. And I've forgotten what sort of element it was. It's a span. And the class was A off screen, and we're going to do dot text and dot strip. I'm actually going to do, let's do dot replace first, because I'm going to remove the pound symbol. We don't really want that, especially if we're going to put this information into a CSV at the end. We don't want the pound symbol will get in the way. And then I'm going to do dot strip like that. Okay, and then we can copy this all again, and we can do old price. But I've just noticed that actually we need to do find all, because as I said, we're going to be indexing these. So after here we need to do, let's do the first one, which is a 0, and then the second one. So if that's worked, let's do print sale price, old price, and let's run our code again just real quick to make sure that this works. Okay, so we can come back to our interactive terminal, interactive Python, and I can say get data. We're going to say soup, get data, URL, let this run. Don't touch any keys because you get some funny characters, and then get deals. Let's just copy that. Okay, so that doesn't work. So list index out of range. Okay, so I think what that means is it's not finding, yeah, here we go. So this is the problem, I think. The first one it's coming across. Did we get any out? Did we get anything out? No. So I'm going to do, so I think maybe the first one it's coming out, well, this one it's coming across isn't a, doesn't have a sale price. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to put try in here. So we're going to try and do this. And if that doesn't work, we're going to do except and we're going to say old price is equal to, and I'm going to copy this again, except I'm just going to do .find because we're not going to index this one, and we're going to put that in there. So we're going to try and run that again. So let's close this and do the same again, and soup equal to get data URL and then get deals. Okay, that worked. So you can see somewhere it failed because there wasn't the exact element. See, this one matched 1299, 1299, so that meant that that element we were looking for before wasn't actually there. So this is a good way to work out if you get a list index out of range, it's because it can't find it. So go ahead and check where you're looking, and if you're definitely in the right place, try and accept like I've done here. That might help you get through it. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is, let's say a good checker I like to do on Amazon is to see how many reviews it's got, just so we can kind of work out whether it's a actual selling product or not. And we can see there's a number right here in a span class, so I'm just going to get that. And again, I'm going to put this into a try and accept because I think it's likely that some won't have any reviews. So we're going to say reviews is equal to item.find, and it was span, and again class, and again .text and .strip because why not? And then we want accept, and we'll say reviews, and we'll give it a 0 so that we know there are no reviews for that product. So I think that will do for the information collecting for this one. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4. We've got enough bits of information. Anything that you see on here you could though go and get. So if you wanted to say, I want to know if this is good because I can get it for Thursday, you could get this information out, or you can see that some of them have this, but I'm actually going to run this calculation myself based on the 2 prices. I think that's going to be a bit more reliable to check for it. So what we want to do now is we want to create a dictionary with all of this information in for putting into a list and then using it at the end. And you can see that's why I've got all of these yellow underlines, because in our function we're getting this but we're not doing anything with it, which is why it's telling me that. So I'm going to say sale item is equal to, and we're going to create a dictionary. You can build it in up here if you want. I do that sometimes. I like to keep it down below a bit separate, just to separate everything up if they get quite long like this. I'm going to say title, needs to be a key, title, and I'm going to say short title, I can't remember what they are called now. Oh yeah, link, just making all the keys and the values, sale price, old price. That's not a very good name. Should be real, like normal price, or maybe, I don't know. Reviews. Perfect. So now that's done, let's print out our sale item like that. And now we're going to run this again. Same as before, get data, give it the URL, and then do the get deals on our soup. Okay, that works perfectly. We can see we now got the title, short title, link, and the 2 prices, and the number of reviews, and we've got a dictionary for each one of those items. That's worked nicely for us. So I'm going to create a list. I'm just going to do it out. I'm going to do it at the top outside of my functions. It's just easier this way for me, and I'm going to call it deals list. Sure, why not? And now we can do our deals list dot append our sale items. So when this is finished running, we get a list of all of these items. Right, so now we've actually done getting the data from the page, which is our extract, if you like. We've done getting all the information from the page, which is our parse or transform. So now we need to do, I actually missed a return off the end of there. Let's just put that in the right line, just so it's neat. Collapse that one down. So now we need to do getting our next page. Now I did do this in my last example. In my last video, I went into it in more detail there, but basically what I do is at the end of each page, we scrape the information and we see if this next button exists. So if we hover over it here, we can see we have this button and it's got a link in it. If that exists, we get the link and we run our functions again on that link all the way up until the end page, which I'll just quickly show you now. I think it's 20, so let's just make these 20. And we can see if we come to the bottom, our next button is gone and it's just turned into a item here. So what we're going to do is we're basically going to say if we find this, we're going to break out of our loops. I will show you how I do this. So I'm going to say, I'm going to create a new function for this as well. So I'm going to say get next page, and it's going to need the soup that we are scraping. So the information that comes out of here, let's make that neat. So we're going to take that and we're basically going to look for that element. So I'm going to say pages is equal to soup.find, and it was an li, and it had a class of a dash pagination, and I'll show you that's down here. So what I'm doing is basically just coming to this. It's not an li, sorry, it's a ul on an unordered list. So I'm just coming down to this task just because I'm looking for list tags, li tags, and there could be loads of those on a page. So I'm just going to basically go here first and then find this. So that was a ul, sorry. And now within that we can say if not pages.find, and this is where we're putting our li tag with class, I think it was, I'll show you here, this one. So let's copy that. So we're basically saying if this doesn't exist, carry on, but and if it does, we're going to break out. So if not that, we can do, we need to create the URL. So we can say our URL is equal to, and we want to do, so we want to do that again. And then we're saying down here, we want to get the a tag within it and then the ref. So we can say dot find and then the a tag and then the href like this. So we're just chaining them together. So we're basically saying, look in this list item with this list class and then find the a tag within it, and that's the href. Now I need to construct this into a full URL. You see here it's only a partial one, so we just need to add the first part to it. So I'm just going to copy that there, and I'm going to say it's now equal to that, and it actually has the slash in it, and then plus, and I'm going to turn this all into a string just so there's no issues there. And that should work for us. And if that works, we're going to return the URL from our function. And otherwise, just move this over so you guys can see, we're going to return nothing. So what we can do with this function is we can say, we're looking for the next page button. If we find it, we are going to return it. If we don't find it, we're returning nothing. And when I run my while loop, you'll see that working. So now we can actually start to think about constructing our, let's get out of that. Now we can actually think about starting to construct our actual code together. So what we're going to do is we're going to get the data from each page. We're going to pass the information we want from it. Then we're going to see if there's another page, and then we're going to do the same thing for that. So I'm going to use a while true loop, because we want it to run indefinitely until we decide that we're going to break it, and at what point we're going to break out of that loop. So I'm going to say data is equal to get data and the URL that we're going to give it. So at the moment, this is still our URL, but we'll incorporate that in a minute. And then we're going to say get deals with our data. And now we're going to say URL is equal to next, what did I say? Get next page, and we're going to give it our data again. So I've called it data down here. We could call this, we'll call it soup, because that's what we've been calling it all along, just so we're consistent. So we're running our functions in order that we created them. We're getting the data, passing it, then we're looking for the next page. So we're saying if this function here returns a URL, because we're saying if you find it, like I just explained, we're going to carry on. But if it doesn't return a URL, so if it's none essentially, so if not URL, we're going to break out of our loop. Else we're going to, I'm just going to print the URL because I can see that it's working, and I also can see the next page number on the end of it, and we're going to print the length of the deals list as well. So that number will just tick up. So we can just check that it's actually adding more on as it goes through, as opposed to getting stuck somewhere. So we can now test it, and I've done a lot of coding without actually without testing any of it so far, so we're bound to get some errors, but we can see what they are and we can fix them. So let's run this and hopefully we get some output. Okay, here we go. So none type has no attribute find, so it's not finding the element that we're looking for. So let's just go ahead. That's because I was looking here. You see this matches. So we're saying that if this element doesn't exist and it's got to it and it's gone, okay, it doesn't, what do you want me to do? You want me to find this element? Okay, well, that's not going to work. So we need to get rid of that part, and it's a last. So I wasn't looking for this tag here. I was looking for a different one, which was the one at the end, which is why we weren't getting any URLs back. So let's try that again. Okay, and it's loading up, so we can see that the page has popped up. Page 1, you see it there. I think it comes in here as well. 2, 3. Ah, that's right, because we start on page 1, 3, and we ended up with 44 results. And what was my search term? DSLR plus card. That's probably going to have quite low numbers because that's not really what you'd ever search for, but I suppose you could. And we have 3 pages. So that has worked. So we're now missing just one part of our code left. So we have our getting the URL and getting the data. We have our parsing it, and we have getting the next pages and doing all of those together. So when that's all finished and we break out of this loop, we need to do something with that data. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to import pandas as PD. Pandas is great for this sort of thing. The data frames are excellent. They're really easy to export to CSV, and you can, if you've constructed your data like I have here, you can just dump your list into it and it will work perfectly. So I'm going to say df is equal to pd.dataframe to construct our data frame. Let's move that up. And I'm going to give it our deals list. And then I'm going to print df.head so we can see that working. I'm going to keep this search term because it was low page number again, so we can just quickly zip through it. But we'll be able to see what it looks like in this data frame when it finishes running. Cool. So we can see that we've got all of the information lined up here. Now, if you look on this side of the screen, we've got the sale price and the old price. What we can do is we can use pandas to add in another column, and we can basically say what the difference is in percentage of these. So we can just do a little bit of maths. I'm going to do that just under here. So I'm going to say then df, and I'm going to say percent off, and we're going to, because this is adding a new column. So to get the percent off, we need to divide the old price by the new price and times it by 1,000, but that will give us the other end of the scale, so we need to do 100 minus that. So you'll see what I mean. So we'll just do 100 minus, and then we want df dot, what did I call it? Sale price. Sale price and old price. So sale price, and we want to do that divided by df dot old price. So this is taking everything from that row and that column and dividing it by the other one. And then we want to times that by 100 to get our percent. And then we're going to take 100 off of that. So if I run it the other way around, if it was, you wouldn't get the percent of, you'd get the percentage of. So it would be not 20% off. It would say your sale price is 80% of your old price. So we just want it the other way around. So when that runs, what we want to do is we want to then structure our data frame so we can output it in reverse order. So the number with the highest amount off is at the top. So you can just put into this, say, oh, do you know what? It's Black Friday. I really want to buy some SD cards. Tell me what the best deal is. So you can just check it out and see, and it'll just be right at the top of your list. So to do that, we do df equals to df dot sort values. And then we can just do by is equal to, and the column name, which is this one. And then we want to do ascending is equal to false. So I want it descending. Let's try that. Let's save it and let's run it and find out where I've typed something wrong. And the error is, so we can just, instead of actually just looking through it and troubleshooting it, we could just run it and wait till we find a problem to fix. There we go. Right, so that's coming through. Okay, so what we need to do now is we need to go back to our parsing, because what we're doing is we're actually sending strings with the price. So because I've removed all of this stuff already, we can just put float around both of these. And what that means is it's just going to turn this into a floating point number, which is a decimal point number basically. So we can then use mathematics on these numbers. I should have done this earlier. It's always a good practice whenever you're scraping numbers to actually turn them into integers or floats, just to make your life easier at the end. So that should be good enough. And let's try that again. There we go. So we can see, it's probably behind me. No, it's just about here. So we can see that we've got this product which has the most percent off, 57%, 50% off. But these ones all have no reviews, so they're probably sponsored or something like that. But it might be worth a go. So now that we've done that, and that actually works, I'm just going to collapse this out of our way again. So now that we've got this working, I'm just going to export this instead of printing it, and I'm going to say df.to CSV, and I'm going to call it, just going to hard code it for the moment, bfdeals.csv, and index is equal to false because we don't want the pandas index in our CSV file. And then I'm just going to add a print statement at the end because I like to, and that will do. So this is all well and good. I'm just going to run this and we'll check the CSV file. Fantastic. Here's our CSV file. Let's make this so we can all see. And we can see here that we have the long name, the shortened name. Now you can make this however long you want. I just like to do it this way. Sale price, old price, and the percentage off. So we can see that this one was $14.99 and is now $6.39. However, I don't know, this has come up for whatever reason, but if you were actually searching properly and not some stupid term like what I did, you might find this deal to be really good. A Canon Speedlight 430EX3 for almost 50% off. That's pretty decent. Or maybe this SanDisk Extreme Pro, it is a memory card and it is 42% off. And we can just copy the URL here and go back to our Amazon. We just paste it at the end. And there we go, we found it. So this looks like it could be quite a good deal for somebody that's interested in this sort of thing. So that's basically it. This is the first part of it. Now you could go ahead and just use this code as it is. You could, I'll have this on my GitHub, by the way. I really will this time. If you've followed me for a while, you know I'm notoriously bad at that. I really will have this, and all you need to do is put your search term in here. Now remember, you need to have a plus instead where the spaces are, because we are putting that directly into the URL. So I'll try another one. We'll see if we can get a bit of a longer one. Let's have a look at SSD card. No, SSD. Let's just do SSDs. And we're going to change the name down here. So what I'm actually going to do actually whilst we're here is I'm going to put in search term plus, so we don't need to keep changing the name. I'll do string around this as well. Actually, I don't need to. We'll just keep, so we can put the search term in here, and I'll put a dash. There we go, that will do nicely. So we don't have to keep changing the name. So let's run that. Probably going to get quite a few more results and more pages. So we'll see how this fares. Oh no, we've got an error again. Okay, so this is cool because this is good. So could not convert string to float, and that's because we've hit a product that's got a really high value, and you can see here that Amazon puts in a comma. So I'm going to go and just deal with that really quick. And we're going to do price, and we want to just add in, we'll put in another dot replace here, and we'll just remove any commas that we come across. Okay, so you can see, let's move that over. I really don't like these, get really long, these lines. I know you can split them out over different lines, but yeah, You get the idea. So all I'm doing is I'm just replacing the comma from it as well. So I'm going to put that into all of these. There we go. Let's run that. And again, that should work now. Okay, that one ran and we got 154 results this time. Let's open up that CSV file. And we can see, here we go, updated version of a wireless mouse. That must be an ad. That's great. So we can see right away, review 0. You could filter that out nice and easily. We could filter that out in Pandas with our data frame as well. We can see this one here, Kingston a NVMe PCIe card, 68% off. And we can just visit that real quick. Right here, paste it after the Amazon bit, and we can see it there. So you could actually refactor the URL properly, so you could click on it if you like. Right, so you get the idea. This code is good, it's ready to use. By all means, have a play around, add in some more information, have a look, see what you think. Maybe you can make it better. There's certainly a lot more things we could do with the data frame with Pandas, a lot more analysis. But I thought this was quite a cool project to get hold of, especially seeing as it's now pretty much Black Friday's upon us. If you're watching this afterwards, it's probably still quite a cool learning exercise. The last thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to put in argparse. Now what that is, it's a Python package that lets us easily turn this into a command line Python program. So when you saw me at the start, I typed in Python 3, then the name of the file, and then some terms afterwards, some arguments. It took those into the code and ran it. So a lot of, if not all of the command line tools that you will ever use on Linux or whatever, they work this way. And we can actually start to build our Python programs like this as well. It takes a few lines of code at the top. And what we're going to do is we're basically going to say whatever we put into our arguments in our command line is going to become the search term. So let's just comment our search term out, not there, up here. And we're going to say we're going to import argparse. And now we just need to do a few things. So we want to set up the description so we can run the help command on our code, and we can put in a description telling the user what they need to put after it, and then actually the information itself. So I'm going to say my parser is equal to argparse.argument parser. There we go. And let's give it a description. So description is equal to, let's say, return Black Friday Amazon. Now, if you're not sure where this is going to come up, I'll show you at the end, but just stick with me for the moment. And then we can say my parser dot, should have called this something better than my parser. And we can say add argument. Can't spell. There we go. And we're going to say the argument we want to add in is search term. And we'll just give it a meta variable of search term. Again, this is just for the help file and stuff like that. And it needs to be, the type is a string, so it won't take in numbers, which is good. And the actual help term will be saying, what should we call it? Let's just say the item to be searched for. And I'll just say here, I'll just put in use plus for spaces. Cool. And finally, we just do args is equal to my parser, and we do dot parse arguments like that. So that will take them in. And now what we can do is that instead of our search term being hard coded, we can say search term is equal to the args we're putting in, the arguments dot search term, which is what we've called it up here. So that, I'll put this above here like that, and then we'll move that down one. So what we're saying is that we're basically just creating our description, and we're saying we're adding an argument. So this must be given when we run this code, and this is some information to help. And then we're saying the search term, which is what we're putting in here, is the search term that is given to this code. Now, if I haven't done any of this wrong, we'll be able to go to the file in the terminal. So we open up our terminal. We can now do Python 3. Let's make that a bit bigger so you can read this side. And we called it bf deals.py, and we run that. We should get following arguments are required. and we can see that we have a usage here. We can do -help. So we can say Python 3 bf deals -h, and it will say what we put in. So it says here, return Black Friday Amazon deals, search term. This is the item to be searched for, use plus for spaces. So we can now do Python 3, and we can say bf deals, and what should we look for this time? Let's do DSLR plus camera. And we can see that that is going to take that argument in. It's going to put it into the search term part over here in our URL, and we're going to go ahead and get those data back. This is quite a cool way of basically taking your scripts up to the next level. There's quite a lot to it, and this is kind of just touching the surface, but you get the idea here. You can have multiple arguments as well, lots of different things. You can shorten them, so you can just call them with flags as well, so which is quite cool, although this one needed to be a string, obviously. So I'm just going to let this run, and I'll show you what it looks like at the end, but basically that's it, guys. So quite a long video on this case. It's a lot of stuff that I have covered before, so if you like this sort of video and you like this sort of content, definitely check back through my other videos. You'll see a few more Amazon ones. I'm actually creating an Amazon scraping playlist as well, which you can look at that. The code will be on my GitHub, so you can go ahead and grab that and you can play with it yourself. You can create this yourself or just use it by all means. I'll show you the file we just got out. And this is the file that we just got back out, and we can see that this is for the search term that we just ran. And not too many cameras on here, lots of accessories, but you get the idea. So that's it, guys. Hopefully you've enjoyed this one, maybe found it useful. Let me know what you thought. Obviously, like the video if you like it. Consider subscribing. There's more of this on my channel, more to come, and I will see you guys in the next one. Thank you very much. Goodbye.